Senate Bill 41 by Senator Barrow. It's an act to amend Titles 14, 15, 17, 46, the Children's Code, the Civil Code relative to child welfare to provide for review of the State Central Registry for School Employees. Senator Miller sends up technical amendments on behalf of the Legislative Bureau, moves adoption of those amendments.
Without objection. On your bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, Senate Bill 41 came as a result of Senate Resolution 167 last year when I spoke with the Ombudsman to look at some of the child sexual abuse investigations and why we had a gap in terms of how those investigations were handled, what were some of the issues and problems. And as a result of that particular task force, we actually came up with this legislation to address and strengthen our child welfare laws, as well as closing some of the gaps. So the bill has 5 major components, and I do have an amendment, but I do want to walk through the bill first. First, the bill addressed early learning centers. What we learned were there are about 234 unlicensed, non-public facilities, early learning centers in our state. And the reason why we found that out is because of, for many of you who heard the testimony of 2 of our constituents whose child was sexually abused by another child. It happened because of the lack of licensure requirements as it related to the child ratio, and the children were unattended. So that's one particular piece of the legislation. The second piece deals with child abuse and neglect reporting investigations. The other thing that we learned was there was always an issue in terms of who was responsible for the reporting. Who should be the lead agent, rather? Should it be DCFS or should it be law enforcement? So this clarifies it and ensures that all cases will start with DCFS, and if they see that the case needs to be pivoted to law enforcement, they can do so. That way we can ensure that there are no gaps as it relates to the reporting process and the child is not falling through the crack. Next was the registry that is in place. So DOE has a registry, Department of Education has a registry that does criminal backgrounds, and Department of Children and Family Services has a registry. And so what we wanted to do was ensure that these 2 registries were working together as we were looking at the licensure of these facilities. 4 was the child abuse and neglect reporting investigation. By law, all employees are required to complete mandatory reporting training. Well, there was nothing that can indicate and show us where this was actually happening. So this is also a part of the law. And then lastly, with the case that we heard from Sergeant Williams and his lovely wife, when their child was assaulted, they could not even go back and get their child belongings from the school. Not to even mention that they had to pull their child out of school. They had to pay for additional care through someone else who came and actually stayed with their child. And so what this would require, some kind of accountability for sexual abuse that occurs at a school, that if there are any liability damages, that they can be recovered. That's the crux of the bill. But there is an amendment, and this amendment came about as we were dealing with those non-licensed facilities who wanted to ensure that we took their concerns into consideration. And so we did do that.
Amendments sent up by Senator Barrow. They are set number 1703, 1703.
On the amendment.
Look like I left my amendments at my desk.
Here you go, Senator Barrow.
Most of the amendments are technical in nature. Amendment number 3 is one of the most substantive amendments that deals with under extenuating circumstances that temporarily prevent compliance. Amendment number 12 is another substantive amendment that deals with the bathroom issue that requires that there's supervision when the children go to the bathroom. And amendment number 14, and this came about from yesterday when members from Washita came to me and said that a child died, a 1-month-old died in August of last year, and we just received a report about it yesterday. So this would require the Department of Children and Family Services notify the Ombudsman's Office within 72 hours of receiving information about a large child abuse or neglect case where there's a death. And that kind of is the overview of the amendments. Seeing no questions, I ask adoption of the amendments.
Okay, there are no questions on the amendment. Is there any objection to the adoption of the amendments? Seeing no objection, the amendments are adopted.
Seeing no questions on the bill, I just want to thank everybody for working with me to get this bill to this first stage. Senator Boudreaux, you said in committee, because there is a fiscal note and it is subject to appropriations, but do you know between then and now, we gotten the bill down to $1.8 million from almost $4 million. So the departments are working with us to see how they can streamline and still get the job done while protecting our children. So seeing no questions, I ask for final passage.
All right, Senator Barrow moves final passage of the bill. Senator Barrow moves final passage of the Senate Bill 41. When the machines are open, all those vote in favor, vote yea. Those opposed, vote nay. Secretary will open the machines. Through voting, vote machines, Senator Alon, yea. Senator Bass, yea. Through voting, Madam Secretary will close the machines. 38 yeas and no nays. Senator Barrow moves to reconsider the vote by which the bill passed and lays that motion on the table without objection. So ordered.
Open the machine for co-authors. What? Senator Barrow.
Open the machines for co-authors, please. Stein, yay. Close the machine for co-authors. 12 co-authors. Next bill, Senate Bill 42.